Okay, be honest. You're at a barbecue, and someone walks up to you with that familiar smile. You've met this person. You know you've met this person. You had a full conversation about their kitchen renovation like 2 weeks ago. And right now, in this moment, you could not produce their name if someone offered you $1 million. So you do what you always do. You go wide. Hey, good to see you. Big smile, vague warmth. Praying to every god you've ever heard of that someone nearby says their name out loud so you can pretend you knew it all along. And later that night, lying in bed, it hits you. Jason. It was Jason. Of course it was Jason. Here's the thing, though. This isn't what you think it is, because the story you've been told is simple. You forgot a name, so you must not care enough. You're careless, maybe a little self-absorbed. Maybe your brain just isn't all that sharp, and you've bought into that story. You've apologized for it at parties, felt embarrassed about it at work, quietly wondered if something is wrong with you. But psychology has been picking apart this exact experience for decades now. And what they found doesn't just challenge that story. It basically dismantles it. Think about the actual moment you meet someone. Not in slow motion, the way it looks in your memory. The real-time version. You walk up, you're scanning their face, you're reading their posture, you're calibrating your own energy. Am I being too much? Not enough? Is this a handshake situation, or are we doing that awkward half-hug? You're calculating all of this simultaneously, running a full social operating system at max capacity. And right in the middle of that neurological traffic jam, someone goes, "I'm Natalie." That sound enters your brain and immediately gets trampled by everything else that's happening. Psychologists identified something called the next-in-line effect, which basically says that when your brain is preparing to perform, to speak, to respond, to be socially acceptable, it stops recording incoming information. It's like trying to write a text message while someone shouts a phone number at you from across the room. Your brain simply cannot do both at the same time. But here's what's strange. After that same conversation, you walk away remembering that Natalie just got back from Portugal, that she's thinking about quitting her job, and that she did this little thing with her hands when she talked about her dog. You captured the entire person. You just lost the tag. Now, even when your brain does manage to catch a name, there's a second problem. And this one is almost unfair. Someone at a dinner tells you they're a deep sea welder. Your brain goes wild. Underwater, sparks, darkness, danger. That detail is cemented in seconds because it connects to a web of images and emotions that already exist in your head. Now they tell you their name. Chris. And your brain just looks at Chris like a dog looks at a magic trick. Nothing, no connections, no images, no network of meaning to plug into. Memory researchers have shown that occupation words and name words, even when they're identical, produce completely different recall rates. Because your brain doesn't store sounds, it stores meaning. And most names carry exactly zero meaning. They're just acoustic gift wrap with nothing inside. So your brain drops them, not out of laziness, out of architecture. And if you're the kind of person who forgets names more than most, there's a reason for that too, and it's more personal than you'd expect. Some people move through social situations with a relatively quiet inner world. They hear what's said, process it, respond, clean and linear. But others, and you probably know if you're one of them, are running an entirely different program. While Natalie is talking about Portugal, you're not just hearing words, you're constructing her emotional state. You're feeling the excitement in her voice, noticing the slight hesitation when she mentions coming back home, building a three-dimensional model of what this trip meant to her. Researchers studying how we process other people's emotions found that individuals with high empathic sensitivity use dramatically more mental bandwidth during conversation. Your brain is essentially running a simulation of the other person's inner world in real time. And that simulation is expensive. It eats up the exact cognitive resources that would otherwise be used to store a name. This is why people who forget names constantly are so often the same people who get told, "I don't know what it is, but I just feel comfortable around you." The deep listening and the name forgetting aren't separate issues. They're the same system, doing what it was built to do. But it would be dishonest to leave it there, because there's another side to this that deserves real honesty. When someone forgets your name, especially more than once, it doesn't feel like neuroscience. It feels like a verdict. Like you weren't interesting enough to be remembered. Like you passed through someone's world and left no mark. That sting is real, and pretending otherwise would be cheap. But here's what's actually happening in that moment. The person who forgot your name probably remembers the story you told about your brother. They remember the way your mood shifted when you mentioned your old apartment. They remember you. They remember the texture of you. They just cannot access the label. Because that's what memory actually is. It's not a filing cabinet where each person gets a neat little folder with their name on the tab. It's more like a painting that your brain keeps adding brushstrokes to. Faces, voices, feelings, fragments of conversation, all layered on top of each other. And somewhere in that rich, messy portrait, the name is a single thin line that got painted over. There's one more layer to this. Your brain runs a constant, invisible filter on everything it encounters. And that filter has one criterion. Does this connect to who I am? Think about someone whose work shaped you during a difficult time in your life. You know their name without trying. It's fused to your identity. Now think about the person who sat across from you at that conference lunch last month. You nodded at each other. You exchanged names. And by the time you picked up your fork, it was already gone. Your memory system doesn't treat all information equally. It gives priority access to anything that plugs into your sense of self, your story, your identity. A name only sticks when your brain decides this person has become part of your narrative. Until then, the label just floats on the surface and quietly dissolves. So maybe it's time to reconsider what's actually been happening all these years. Every time you panicked at a grocery store because a coworker waved and you couldn't remember if they were Sarah or Laura. Every time you used buddy or my friend as a verbal smoke grenade. Every time you lay awake feeling like something was broken in you. Your brain wasn't failing. It was choosing depth over data, choosing the feeling of a person over the file name, running a program that prioritizes who someone is over what they're called. And there's something that shifts when you finally understand that. You stop treating it like a deficiency. You stop rehearsing name tricks in your head while someone is trying to have a real moment with you. And you start to realize that the thing you've been apologizing for your entire life might actually be one of the most human things about you.